I'm RJ Nealon, and I'm here with Kevin Negandhi at the 2018 Special Olympics USA Games. Today I'm going to be asking you some questions about your work and how you got into it.
Let's do it.
What age were you when you knew your passion for sports?
RJ, so when I was around 8 or 9 years old, I loved the idea of watching football with my dad. And I would always get the paper in the morning on Sundays and read up on the Eagles and get all the stats and the information. I already knew that my dad wanted to talk about the Eagles, and it was a great way for me to have a conversation with him. So I would always find out what Ron Jaworski was doing with the Eagles and the touchdowns that he had, the interceptions, so we could engage in a conversation. And then when I was 14 years old, I remember watching on TV a college basketball game, and there was a player that they were profiling at the free throw line. And he was shooting free throws, and the two sportscasters on the broadcast said that the player at the free throw line wanted to become a sportscaster. And at that moment, it hit me. I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And then I watched SportsCenter that night, and I remember saying, I want to be on SportsCenter. So at 14, that's the one time I specifically remember it was everything made sense. And this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
What is the hardest part of your job, and how do you embrace those challenges on a day-to-day basis?
Wow, that's a really good question, RJ. The hardest part of the job is just, I think, to be prepared for the unexpected. But at the same time, it's what I love the most about our job, because you have to always adjust no matter what. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. You're never going to have a perfect show. So you strive for perfection. You strive to have the best show you can. But at the same time, there's always going to be something that you have to improvise, which is fine. There's always going to be something that's not going to go as planned, which is fine. It's just being able to handle that. So I think it's just making sure that you're not beating yourself up if you make a mistake, because it's a natural thing. It took me a long time to say, it's okay. It's okay that I made a mistake. Don't let it affect the rest of the broadcast. Don't let it affect what I'm doing right now because I made a mistake 5 seconds ago. You know, Chris Berman once said that when you're doing live TV, once you're done, it's on its way to Pluto. You're never going to bring it back, right? So why am I worried about it over here when I got to focus on what's here? So it's just understanding that it's okay to make a mistake and forgiving yourself and moving on and stop being perfect.
So you said it's okay to not be perfect.
Yes.
Sports broadcasting is very competitive.
Yeah.
What was your big break? And
that's a good question. What was my big break? I guess, my biggest break probably was getting the call that I was going to go up to ESPN for a tryout. And so that was in 2006. My agent at the time told me he had an opportunity, and I had to fly up to Bristol and try out with, and I was competing against 6 other potential sportscasters. And that whole day, you get ready for a tryout. You go on the set. You do a 10-minute sportscast. Then you do interviews with 6 executives. And then 3 weeks later, I got the job. And I felt like my big break. 18 months later, I was doing some stuff. I had done like Outside the Lines, ESPN News, College Football Live, NFL Live, a variety of different shows. And we got a call that somebody got sick, and they wanted me to do the 1 a.m. Sports Center. And I was like, absolutely. And I went in that night, and I did pretty well on my first Sports Center. And the next week, I had 4 Sports Centers on my schedule. So it felt like a big break for me. So it's just, you know what it is? It's always being prepared and being ready no matter what they say, because you never know when you're going to get the phone call. It's just making sure you're ready to go.
Can you tell us how long you've been with ESPN?
I've been with ESPN since 2006. September, I hate using this date, but September 11th was my first day, September 11th, 2006. So I always celebrate September 12th, 2006. So it'll be nearly 12 years, 2 months away, and it'll be 12 years.
any game, any athlete, any event, what would be your favorite that you have covered?
Wow, these are really any game, any athlete, any event. What would be my favorite? Really good questions. I've been lucky to cover Michael Jordan. I was at the game where he crossed over Allen Iverson. I was 21 years old. It was 1996, 97, that season, and I was 3 rows behind the basketball net. That was a pretty cool moment, being somebody who was in college. I was, again, 21 years old at Temple, and I was in the locker room afterwards with the Bulls, and it was just a fun night. Pippen was there, Jordan was there in the locker room, along with Dr. Jay walks in, who's my idol, and they're all in the room, and I'm just sitting there as a college kid watching it. That was pretty cool. Bo Jackson was my idol. Interviewing Bo Jackson a couple times was amazing for me, especially in the last 10 years at ESPN. So there's a lot of things. I've been very lucky to meet the President of the United States, President Obama, when he asked me to come. I was invited through Special Olympics to go to the White House, and that was pretty cool a few years ago. And so I've been very lucky to cover events, be at events. I was at the Eagles Super Bowl just this past February, and being an Eagles fan, that was an amazing time for me. I've been very lucky to be a fan and also be a sportscaster, journalist that's covering events and being around these things.
So ESPN just launched a new global campaign, Life Needs Sports.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
It means everything. I mean, my life is filled with sports, and I can't imagine what my life would be without sports. So the campaign is actually kind of like measuring and defining my life. And it's true, because I think the joys, the celebrations that we have, the confidence we can build, the relationships we can have, you can get them through sports, and they transcend past sports into everything that we do in life. So I think sports is that one thing, and it's a common ground that we can all have a conversation with, and walk away feeling good and not getting into a fight about anything, unless you're probably talking about SEC football and Alabama, Auburn. But that's the thing. I can do that with the Eagles and the Cowboys. You could have very spirited conversations, and you could still walk away having fun about it. And I think that's what life is supposed to be about. Sports is a getaway from some of the things that I think that are a little too serious. And also at the same time, sports finds a way to find places in our culture and things that are, like Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier. It wasn't just a sporting event. He changed a lot of people's lives from there on out. That's what sports can do. That's the impact and the power it can do in our culture.
What does it mean to be here at the 2018 Special Olympics USA Games in Seattle, Washington?
RJ, I just want to tell you, you've been asking me some of the best questions. All open questions, no yes or no. Really well done by you. I could take some lessons from you. What's been amazing for me, and what it means to me, is that we could share stories that you're not normally going to find, especially on the network level. ESPN, Disney supporting Special Olympics is such a big initiative, because of the idea of inclusion and acceptance, and the idea that, hey, everybody has the opportunity, and that's all we want. We just want a chance, right? And so, to me, my belief of being the first Indian American on SportsCenter, the first Indian American on TV at ESPN, all I wanted was a chance, because there was no one when I was growing up that looked like me on TV. And to get that chance, I think that's the same thing here, that when you see Special Olympics, everybody is allowed the opportunity to play. And whenever I cover the Special Olympics, and then I go back to my regular job on a daily basis, and that is Sports Center and college football in the fall on ABC, you feel completely refreshed and rejuvenated because you're like, the real stories, the passionate stories, the chance that you could be involved, that's there. And you're going to feel every single emotion. You're going to laugh. You're going to cry. You're going to smile. You're going to go, and you get all of that when you cover the Special Olympics.
What are you looking forward to most this week? Any favorite competitions that you're looking forward to?
Actually, no. There's not one specific one. I was actually looking forward to a race that took place earlier this week in the 5,000 meter. When Andrew Peterson's running and he's the favorite, and then you got a young kid named Julian Borst who upsets him, and he's a world-class runner as well. And those are the storylines that, and at the end, Andrew's celebrating with Julian. Those are the stories that are at every single competition. So there's not one specific one. I don't think it's fair to pick one. Because you're still having the same concept in every single one. The emotion is there, the ability that everybody gets a chance to be a part of it, and it's a celebration of all the hard work that all the athletes have gone through, as well as the coaches and the family members and the volunteers.
So you said everyone deserves a chance.
Yes.
Everyone deserves to compete.
Yes.
If you could tell the athletes one thing for this week, and all, what would it be?
That they all deserve this. They all deserve to be accepted. They should be very proud of themselves and to build off of this because they're here because of their hard work. And the other thing is to thank the coaches and the volunteers and the family members for supporting them. But also when they go back home and they go back in the community, to carry the same type of spirit and to understand that there are so many people that are behind them. And sometimes they may encounter, bullying, and they may encounter some people that are ugly that don't understand. When I say ugly, that are ugly to them. They need to understand that they do have friends and that they have a support system and that we're always going to be here for them.
The athlete's oath is let me win, but if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. Can you explain one time that you've been brave in the attempt?
Brave in the attempt, huh? That is a really good question. So I come from a background that's, first person in my family, born in America. My family came from India. And there was, I encountered bullying at certain points in my elementary school years as well as junior high. And I remember that one specific time I was being bullied by a couple of guys because I was Indian, and I stuck up for myself and I didn't back down from it. And that to me enabled me to have confidence in myself to say I can do whatever I want. And it's what's so funny is the guys that were involved in the bullying have turned out to be friends. Sometimes when you're younger, you don't know what you're saying. You don't understand the impact that you're having when you just use words in a negative manner. And it's a good story in the end. And it's a story that while painful and while, me talking to that 12, 13, 14-year-old now, I wouldn't have understood it back then, but it was essential in my character and growing up and understanding that other people are bullied.
Thank you so much for taking the time and interviewing with Team Maryland's Special Olympics media team. This is RJ Nealon with Kevin Negandhi, and we're signing out.